As the West ramps up military assistance against invading Russian troops, US President Joe Biden announced an $800 million weapons deal for Ukraine. The West military aid to Ukraine began cautiously with helmets and flak jackets, but has already expanded to include drone capabilities of destroying Russian tanks and artillery from a distance of 50 miles. The FIM-92 Stinger is one of these weapons, and it is the primary focus of today's video. In the midst of its confrontation with Russia, the US sent hundreds of Stinger missiles to Ukraine in early March. According to a briefing given to two US congressional officials, some 200 Stinger missiles were supplied. But more on that later in the video. When Russia invaded Ukraine in late February 2022, outmanned Ukrainian soldiers on the ground were exposed to Russian helicopters, which could quickly transfer Russian forces throughout the besieged smaller country. That's why the United States and its NATO allies, Germany, agreed to offer Ukraine a powerful weapon, the Stinger anti-aircraft missile, to help balance the odds in some way. The Stinger is a weapon that has the potential to be a game changer, allowing ground troops to dispute aircraft and obstruct the enemy's ability to conduct operations. Afghan resistance fighters used Stinger missiles handed to them by the CIA to fire down Soviet helicopters in the mid-1980s, demonstrating the weapon's lethality. History. To give you a brief history of this magnificent weapon, we must go back a few years to 1967, when the mission began as a General Dynamics initiative to develop a better variation of the FIM-43 Red Eye. The Red Eye was produced from 1969 to 1982, with an estimated total output of 85,000 missiles. The U.S. Army selected the program for continued deployment as Red Eye 2 in 1971 and designed FIM-92. The Stinger nickname was adopted in 1972. Due to technical issues, the first shoulder launch did not occur until mid-1975, necessitating extensive testing. The FIM-92A has been in production since 1978. The FIM-92B, an improved Stinger with a new seeker, was produced alongside the FIM-92A starting in 1983. In 1984, work on the new FIM-92C began, and manufacturing began in 1987. In 1989, the first prototypes were given to frontline troops. A reprogrammable microprocessor was included in C-type missiles, enabling gradual firmware changes. Later, D-designated missiles got enhancements to improve their ability to overcome countermeasures, while later upgrades to the D-marked missiles were labeled G. The FIM-92E, also known as Block 1, was developed in 1992 and first delivered in 1995. Certain sources state that the FIM-92D is also part of the Block 1 development. The sensor and software were the key upgrades that improved the missile's effectiveness against low-signature targets. This beast has had many different versions throughout the years, but a little more on that later in the video. It has, however, earned a reputation on the battlefield. Over the years, she has been used in a variety of conflicts. The Stinger made its combat debut during the Falklands War between Argentina and the United Kingdom. Soldiers in the British Army Special Air Service were secretly outfitted with 6 missiles at the start of the battle, despite receiving no training in how to deploy them. On May the 19th, the only SAS trooper who had received training on the system and was scheduled to educate additional troops was killed in a helicopter accident. Nonetheless, on May 21, 1982, an SAS soldier attacked an Argentine Pucara ground attack plane with a Stinger and shot it down. Variants. The FIM-92A is a simple model. It has a maximum range of 4 kilometers and a maximum height of 3.5 kilometers. This model was first produced in 1981. The missile's manufacture most likely ended in 1983. The FIM-92B is an improved model. A dual IR-UV seeker took the place of an infrared seeker head. As a result, this missile is far more resistant to hostile countermeasures like flares and natural calamities. This variant has a longer range and a higher altitude. It has a maximum range of 4.8 kilometers and a maximum height of 3.8 kilometers. This model was first produced in 1983 and was discontinued in 1987. According to certain reports, just 600 FIM-92B missiles were manufactured. Model FIM-92C has been upgraded. Its resilience to countermeasures and interference has increased much further. The digital computer components in this missile are more powerful. Additionally, its software could swiftly be modified to adapt to new countermeasures. It has the same maximum range and altitude as the FIM-92B type. The missile's development was finished in 1987. The FIM-92C was manufactured in significant quantities. Approximately 20,000 units were produced for the U.S. Army alone until 1991. The FIM-92D has been upgraded to boost interference resistance even further. The flying behavior of the FIM-92E has greatly improved. Its performance against tiny targets like drones and cruise missiles has also improved. Delivery of this variant began in 1995, and it eventually replaced virtually all of the US Stinger stock. The FIM-92G is an enhanced version of the FIM-92D. An FIM-92H model is one that has been upgraded from an FIM-92D model to the FIM-92E standard. The FIM-92J has been upgraded to give it longer service life. The missile's aging components were replaced with new ones to prolong their service by 10 years. This model's warhead is equipped with a proximity fuse. It makes it more effective against UAVs. Suppression of air defense missiles, it's the Stinger version with a passive radar seeker added to it. The missile can also be used to destroy radar transmitters. The FIM-92 Stinger. The Stinger's effectiveness is due in part to its portability. It can be launched by a soldier or a trained civilian who carries it on their shoulder. It can engage low-altitude threats at altitudes of up to 3,800 meters and has a targeting range of up to 4,800 meters. Mach 2.54 is its greatest speed. The warhead, which has a self-destruct timer, explodes 17 seconds after it's fired. Stingers are also utilized as an air-to-air weapon on the U.S. Army's AH-64 Apache combat helicopter. They can also be installed on ground vehicles. Despite the fact that it was created in the 1970s, it is still terrifying. The Stingers have been through a lot of battles over the years. The FIM-92A Stinger missile is designed to provide ground forces with a means of dealing with low-flying planes and helicopters. Low-flying enemy aircraft are usually a concern for soldiers on the ground because they are bombing or starving, undertaking reconnaissance operations, or inserting, withdrawing, and resupplying hostile forces. The simplest method to eliminate these hazards is to shoot them down. There are various factors that contribute to the Stinger's effectiveness as a weapon for ground troops. It's small and easy to transport. The missile and launcher together weigh around 35 pounds. The launcher may be used again and again. Each missile is a completely enclosed device weighing about 22 pounds. A single person may launch a Stinger missile since it is a shoulder-launched weapon, although you normally see a two-man team operating the missile. A passive infrared seeker. The infrared seeker can detect the heat emitted by the target. It's dubbed a passive seeker because it doesn't transmit radio waves to see its target, unlike a radar-guided missile. The guidance, tail, propulsion, and warhead systems are all part of the Stinger missile. The missile's tail contains 4 foldable fins that provide roll and stability while in flight. The seeker assembly, a guidance assembly, a control assembly, a missile battery, and 4 wings that offer in-flight agility make up the guidance section. 1 pound of explosives enclosed in pyrophoric titanium makes up the warhead. A launch motor and a dual thrust flying motor are included in the propulsion segment. The soldier fires the weapon by aiming the missile at the target. The seeker produces a distinct noise when it latches on. As soon as the soldier pulls the trigger, 2 things occur. The missile is launched from the launch tube by a tiny launch rocket far away from the soldier who is shooting. The launch engine is detonated and the primary solid rocket engine fires up. This rocket propels the Stinger at 1,500 miles per hour. The missile then autonomously flies to its target and bursts. Stinger missiles use passive IR/UV sensors to track all their targets. The missiles seek infrared light emitted by the target's plane engines and follow that light to track it down. The missiles also recognize the target's UV shadow and utilize that information to distinguish it from other heat-producing objects. If you made it this far and are interested in learning some more, watch our video on Ukraine's arms and military weapons of 2022. So, what are your thoughts on this beast? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.